Well, today we're in the AKV hangar facility, and as you can see, we've got a lot of Robinsons here, not only in the hangar, but we've also got a handful out on the ramp. We've got R44s from Raven 1 Cadet, Raven 2s, an R22, and a handful of R66s as well. So we've got everything that Robinson manufactures. I just happened to be here one day. I personally witnessed a engine overspeed with a student pilot that was in an R22 out here on the ramp. It was a significant engine overspeed. Being a flight instructor myself from many years ago and flying Robinsons primarily, you know, everybody knows the criticality of having the throttle closed before you crank the engine. So I got to thinking about a method to be able to prevent this from happening. Got to working on a design after looking at schematics and the layout of the Robinson from inside, and came up with an initial design for the R44 Raven 1. So currently we're sitting in an R44 Cadet, and the RHSI kit is installed in this aircraft. It's a simple system that prevents the starter from engaging if the throttle's open. Just for demonstration purposes, what would normally happen is when the pilot is sitting in the aircraft and they're going through their pre-start checks, the rotor brake is checked off, they check their instruments. At some point they would turn the battery on, look down at the amber caution light, which is part of the starter interrupt kit circuit, and it's a push to test function, so they would push the indicator to make sure the bulb is operational. And if by chance the throttle was already open and they saw that the bulb was already lit, it would simply close the throttle. Now, normally with the throttle closed, at some point when they get ready to start, I'm just going to bump the starter. We can actually crank the engine, and the amber indicator light is lit. You can see that we have nothing. So you can't even crank the engine. You can't even start it to begin with, which is the preventative aspect of the starter interrupt. Now, if you were having problems with a flooded engine, you needed to open the throttle a little bit more than normal just to get some airflow through and get rid of the excess fuel in the engine. And if they had to open the throttle beyond the limit switch functions, which would normally prevent the starter from engaging, you can simply reach down and pull the circuit breaker, and you would have normal cranking of the engine. So that is a nice function there for any on-ground issues you might have with a flooded engine. Now, one of the safety aspects that's built into the starter interrupt kit is after the engine is started, and the pilot engages the clutch switch to start tightening the belts, the action of engaging the clutch switch would then disengage the starter interrupt kit, because obviously the engine started. We don't need to have that kit being part of the starter circuit anymore. And the reason we have it that way is because if you have an in-flight engine failure, you want to be able to have normal starting functionality without having the starter interrupt kit being part of the circuit. So we actually disengage the starter interrupt after the clutch is engaged, and that's as simple as it is. So our goal with the starter interrupt system, no matter if you own an R22, an R44, or an R66, or maybe all three types, is that you no longer have to worry about somebody overspeeding your engine and the pistons. And in the R66, you've got a level of assurance that you can prevent a hot start from having the throttle open or the fuel cutoff open. So in any case, you know, this will result in major savings from damaged engines, whether you've got a piston or a 66, that can, you know, go from anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000 in repairs and lost revenue if you're in a flight school operation or maybe even a charter operation.